Hello, savvy listeners. I am excited you are taking the time to invest in yourself today. Savvy, the business podcast, will show you how your daily habits can create your own platform. Experts will share solutions and efficient tips to create a roadmap just for you. One thing that can make this happen: change your habits, change your success. Welcome to Savvy, the business podcast.
Hey, savvy listeners, it's your girl Tracy with another edition of Coffee Cup Therapy. Are y'all ready for this good word? Okay, then let's go ahead and get this party started. Honey, listen, let me ask y'all a question. What are you waiting on? Go ahead, I'll give you a minute to think about your answer. See, what I want you to do, folks, is look at your life at this very moment, at this very second, and realize how perfect it is. Imperfectly perfect, but your life nonetheless. So please, I say to you, my friends, live your life now. Live your life in this very moment. Stand in your truth. Nothing magical is going to happen. Take life by the horns and live it now. Because guess what, people? Time waits for no one. All right, now I want y'all to take that good word and go out there and be amazing today. Remember, this world absolutely needs you. Oh, but before I forget, what I need you guys to do for me is give me some feedback. Let a girl know what's on your mind and give me some thoughts and tell me what you want to hear. You can send those emails at media@savvymag.biz. Hope to hear from you soon.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Savvy, the business podcast. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today. We're on with Miss Dana. And Dana, she is a person that can help you with a lot of your processes, understanding what you need to do. And we are here in a new year. We're not going to talk about 2020. We're not going to do anything with that. Just forget about it. We're starting fresh in 2021. And we're going to talk about, some of those things with processes and how to, get into some of those things. Now, before we get started, I'm going to just read a little bit of her bio and let you know a little bit who she is. Dana Johnson is a business leader with more than 20 years of strategy, operations, communications experience. She loves the work of creating business structures, systems, and processes that free up entrepreneurs and can lead to financial success. She's been able to build an expertise in operations and add value at organizations that include Beaman Incorporated in Chicago, YMCA of Chicago, YMCA of Washington, District of Columbia, and We Act for Environment Justice in New York City. So we're going to jump right in to talk with Miss Dana Johnson. How are you today, ma'am?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how did you get into processes and what made you want to go that direction with processes and keep people, pretty much get their stuff together.
Yes. So you know how we all have like multiple professional lives. So I feel like in my second professional life, I went into communications and I worked at client service firms. So I worked at big global entities, a medium-sized organization that was focused more on like marketing and product development. And then I went to work at Beaman Incorporated, which is a boutique firm based in Chicago. And I was the first employee as part of that organization. And the founder, started the PR department at BET. She was the first PR person for the Oprah Winfrey Show. And so she had this wonderful depth of expertise, but she would always talk about, I want to be a $10 million company. And as the first employee, there weren't like structures and systems in place that would help us internally realize what she wanted to have happen externally. And so that included, financial models, like how do we price projects? What should our billable rates be? What are our human resource processes? How should we onboard people and train them and develop them so that they can, support her external vision? And so I feel like that's the place where my passion and interest for operations really grew, really developed. I think I was working as a PR person, but in my heart, I'm a businesswoman, and I like that part of business. And so it started there and kind of grew out.
Wow. Um, and I'm sure throughout that time with working with different people and just your journey in business, your professional career, how often, and even today, how often do you see people, trying to work their business or just trying to do a project and they don't, they haven't phased it out. They haven't, figured out what are my steps, budget, all of these things that's needed to move forward. They just dive in. Okay, let's just do this. We're just going to get this done. So how often do you see that, and what solution would you have for them to just hit the brakes, slow up, and let's start over?
I love the question. I couldn't hardly let you get it out. Right. So a lot of entrepreneurs and organization starters, right? So if that's a nonprofit, have the technical skills, they have the expertise. So let's say they're the social worker, and so they know how to relate to people, or they're the PR person, and so they know how to do that part of the work. And to your point, they dive in. What research shows is that 90% of organizations, and that can be global organizations on down to I'm a solopreneur, create strategic plans, but they don't implement them. So that's a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. And so when you're working your business or running your organization, you're doing it from your gut. And there is a place for your gut, right? There's a place for intuition. But if you want to be focused, then you need to have the cousin, I call it, to your strategic plan. You need to have an operations plan, an action plan, a logic model where you prioritize the things that you say you want to do. And then you can focus solely on that one thing or those three things so you aren't overwhelming yourself. But you're also testing, like, was I on the right track initially when I came up with the strategy for my organization? Or maybe I need to tweak it slightly because my audience is a little bit off, or I'm not in the places where my audience gets information, or they buy things or purchase things. So I need to tweak it a little bit. But to your point, in the absence of that, you kind of willy-nilly, like whatever comes your way, you kind of go in that direction. And so 90% of people never take their strategy and form an action plan. And 14% of people work in organizations and have no idea why they're doing what they're doing. So they just out here doing what they think is the best thing, or doing what you tell them to do, as opposed to seeing how they contribute to the success of your organization.
You have said so much in such little time. Wow. I mean, implement strategy, your cousin. Your cousin.
Yes.
Might even have a long lost brother in there. Something like that. I mean, you said so much. Let's break this down. Let's get into implementation. When you're implementing things, not only is it processes, but it could be your tools as well.
Yes.
And what I've, shared with a lot of people is it's boatloads of things out here on the internet. Just because Dana used this system, it may not work for Melissa. So right. I need to, download these free trials, play around with them, put a few contacts or something in there just so you can go through those steps to see, okay, how does this work? Is it simple for me? Is it giving me what I need? But there is not one system out there. When I say have every single thing, there's not one system out there. Yeah. So we have to to find those systems that work for us. And at the most, maybe 2 or 3 systems, maybe, depending on what you're doing. But let's talk implementation, not only with processes, but with tools. And we don't have to get specific with the tools, but naming how to go about finding that right tool for you.
Yeah, I think that you raise a really excellent point. Um, there are a variety of things. Like, quite frankly, I like a good Microsoft Excel spreadsheet where I have a column for my goals, I have a column for who's accountable, I have a short term, long term, medium term, midterm column, and I'm able and who's responsible. I'm able to keep track of that. To your point, there are productivity tools like Asana or a
Mhm.
Microsoft project tool that people can use. And so I think one, it is how intricate of a system do you want to have? I think there is an element of being honest with yourself. Will you be overwhelmed by multiple systems? Right. And so
Mhm.
that's the kind of honest conversation I have with myself. I don't want to open another app. And so, like, a good spreadsheet works for me. But I think that also there is a place, like, if you're big enough where you have people who work with you and for you, there's an opportunity to even ask them about, try out this tool, let me
Mhm.
know how you think it works. Do we have something already in place that we might want to marry to this tool? But how do we do it in a way that we aren't overwhelming ourselves with a lot of products? So yeah, there is that testing phase, but then also, right, eliciting the support of other people to help you develop something.
Let's talk on strategy. So
Yes.
now we're going to implement these things and take some of the advice that you've given. Now, the strategy. How can we utilize those to get it done?
Right. So the first thing that you want to do is, let's say your strategic plan has 3 objectives in it. You have 3 things that you want to accomplish. You want to take a look at them and prioritize them. So what is the thing that you need to get done in the immediate term? And let's say immediate term is 2021.
Mm-hmm.
What are those things that you might want to start in the middle of 2021, but you don't really have to have it done until the middle of 2022? So you want
Mm-hmm.
to look at what you have and prioritize them. Then you want to break down each one of those objectives into I think it's like 6 ways that you do it. So what's the objective? What are the inputs, right? So what are the inputs or resources that I need to make this happen? Is it I
Mm-hmm.
need some money for it? I need to hire a new person. I need a new piece of equipment. Being really clear about what all of those inputs are. And then what are the outputs or the action steps that I need to take in service to that objective? What is the timeline for getting those things done? And then when I think short term goals, it's, what's this tangible thing I want to have in my hand? Midterm goals are, what do I want to learn from this experience, right? So we talked about that, thinking about, what you want to evaluate. And there could be some metrics in that. It could be, I invested $20,000 in marketing or Facebook ads. Did I get any additional sales as a result of that? So you want to think about what you want to learn in the process. And then the longer term goal is, what's the big thing that I want to do to, I don't know, move my business in terms of growth, or, have
Mm-hmm.
more people be served. And so if you spend time sort of breaking down those things, then you know how much work it actually takes to get it done.
Those are some great points. Um, Now, for the ones that, you mentioned the resources, outputs, timeline, and some of the resources, it's not only the online tools, it's outsourcing if you need to outsource. And we have to not be afraid to outsource, but you also have to be careful with your research on whoever you're bringing in to do whatever task that you're bringing somebody in to do. What are some of the ways that you can suggest to do that research and um, understanding the investment when you're budgeting out for the month or 6 months or quarter, however they're doing it, when you're budgeting out, how you should budget out for that additional, those additional fees to outsource a task.
Yeah, really great question. So one of the things I loved, you're like, yeah, I ask great questions. One of the things I loved about working with Robin Beaman at Beaman Incorporated was she would always say, like, I know what my strengths are and I know how to go out and find folks who fill my gaps, right?
I know how to stay in my lane.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And so one of the ways that I have come up with to sort of manage how you go out and find those resources and partnerships is what I call operationalizing your values. And so when you're an entrepreneur, you have your personal values, you have your company values, and they may be the same thing. So let's
Mhm.
use respect as an example. If you say that your company value is respect, then what does respect look like for you when you deal with partners? Is respect, will we set a timeline for a deliverable? You respect me when you deliver on time because you understand what that means when you impact, what that can mean for my customers or the people whom I serve. And
Mhm.
so, you build timelines for yourself or service level agreements that speak to that. You put that into your contracts, your agreements that you have with people. And then you might even, you talked about money, put some financial consequence in that. So if that's somebody, if it's like a payment schedule or whatever, you might want to have some parameters around payment that speak to respect. So you build that value into all of your process in terms of how you engage partners. And then when it comes to building your budget, there are two things that I think that you need to factor in and consider, and that is be really clear about how much it costs you to run your business and to operate. So you have your fixed costs, you have your costs that change, depending on how you spend money or how you operate, and so be really clear about how much money you need to make, and then you want to be really clear about the monies that you have available for a partner. And then my experience is things always run over. And so you might want to sort of consider adding what I call like a load. So let's say like a 10%, I'll add a 10% line item into my budget that will account for, a project going a little bit longer than I thought it would, or I might need some additional support from someone than I initially planned, and I want to make sure that I have that wiggle room so that I'm not taking away from my own personal profit or organizational profit.
Right. Those are, again, excellent points. I mean, this is like what we're hitting so many different things. And not only because this is a new year, when new year happened, everybody do the resolutions. And I say, don't do resolutions, do goals.
Yeah.
Um, and, we want to start fresh with things, but we have to find a way to plan those things out to be sure that we stay on track when we're planning. So let's talk about the planning aspect of it, of utilizing content planners. So many people get confused with them because when you say a content planner or planning, it's always about content, content, content. And I'm not saying that's not a good thing. You definitely want to put content out,
Right.
but those planners can also be a source for you to plan out the things that you need to do.
Yes. Yes. When I was at the YMCA in Chicago, one of my colleagues created what we called an InStep plan. And it was looking at all the facets of, in this particular instance, like your branch or your program center. So, what's your financial goal for this month? what's your membership promotion for this month?
Mm-hmm.
What's your, program for this month? What kinds of marketing do you plan to do for that? How do we need to decorate the facility? It was one place where we had everything associated with the activities that we would engage in the month, as well as our goals for that month. So that, again, everyone looking at that plan, that InStep plan, knew how we were moving forward as an organization, and they were clear about how they were contributing to that. And I think that that speaks to your point about sort of like alignment, right? Or consolidation is the word I want. Having everything in one place, because when you have multiple tools, um, there's opportunity for things to fall through the crack. So, like, can you create something that holds everything in one place?
Right.
Timelines, all of it.
So when you're dealing with multiple tools, I also want to talk about, since we're on processing, is that you can have so many tools that it gets too complex. And, to go back a little bit, understand what works for you. No, there's not going to be one tool that has every single thing to do, but you can get it done with two, no more than three of those tools to get your processes and things done. So just be aware of that and don't have all these different tools on your phone, on your iPad, on your tablet, on your computer. Whatever you have those two, three, whatever it is, on all of your devices, so you can have one login. So that way all of your information is syncing across your devices, and you don't have to be trying to, toggle with all of these things. Now, let's talk cleanup. So not only cleanup of your processes, but cleanup of your tools. So if you have all of these things that you've been using, let's consolidate them. So let's talk about that, consolidating those tools and those processes, and understanding how to X out what you really don't need.
Yeah, so I do think that that's such an excellent, wow, that's an excellent question. That even, I feel struck at like, wow, how often do I do that, right? But maybe it makes sense to build into, when you enter a new year or points within the year, to spend some time sort of going through those tools, going through your email boxes. If you use Slack, going through your Slack channels. If you use Google Drive, going through there and moving things off of those places into some sort of archive. And it can be, like a cloud or electronic archive. You could have an external drive. But yeah, I do think like there is opportunity. I'm gonna have to give you that one, Dr. Ambrose, because yeah, there's great opportunity to declutter as a way to stay focused in your business, in your operations, and making that be a regular period, a regular interval throughout the year. I love
No, absolutely. I do a lot of brain dump with my clients.
yeah.
And some have heard of it and some have not. And I do them myself as well. And everybody want to get, oh, I need a big whiteboard, I need to do this. If you have a wall, you
Yeah.
can do a brain dump.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's nothing but sticky notes. And the reason I suggest the sticky notes, and I use different sizes. I have one that's probably like this big, that I use, and I put a lot of the major things on there, and then I build me a tree, and I use a regular size sticky note and the little bitty sticky notes, and I just kind of build. And with those sticky notes, it's easy to move them around or move them from one section to another, and just do stuff. But of course, for people that have little ones running around, they're going to have to find a place that's high enough that they can't reach it or climb on something to pull them down, or in a separate room that they keep their door closed. But brain dumps are important for everybody to do, because not only just to put out everything out of your head to make space for other things, but it's always a visual where you can see what you're double dipping, or I thought I did such and such. Nope, you didn't do it. Let's write this down. Or why am I doing this all 3 times? So you can see what you're double dipping in or what you're not doing and you
Yeah.
should be doing.
Yep.
So
What
when you're
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
Nick. No, what I love about what you said, it made me think about the earlier points we made about sort of knowing yourself. So, for
Yeah.
example, like I know I'm visual, and having something on the computer is good, but having something to your point that I have on my wall, that brain dump or that piece of paper that I can go back and reference, is really good for me. I like something tangible because it supports me in the thinking process, the planning process, the building process.
With that being said, talk a little bit about the transparency with ourselves because I don't know if you watch Ayana Fix My Life, but she had a session with, oh, I can't think of the girl's name, but she was like one of the Love and Hip Hop chicks, and she had a distorted mirror on purpose and said, look in this mirror and tell me what you see. Oh, I'm beautiful, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. And she was like, that's kind of strange how you look in a mirror and call all that stuff when what you saw was not what you're saying. She said,
Yeah.
well, she actually said, well, I think the mirror broke.
Yeah.
She said, no, it's not broke. It's purposely distorted.
Yeah.
But for you to look in a distorted mirror and still say that I'm this, I'm strong, I'm beautiful, I'm sexy, I'm all of these things, when that mirror is making you look all types of crazy.
Yeah.
So, I brought that up to say when we're doing these brain dumps or having conversations with our mentors, consultants, friends, whoever that person is, or however you're having those conversations, including your brain dump sessions, you have to be transparent with yourself,
Yes.
whether good or bad. You
Yes.
just have to be transparent enough because that's what's going to be able to help you realize certain things, and whoever you're using to spill on, they can offer those right suggestions to you as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that it goes to a point that you and I talked about before we jumped on. There is a moment when you have to like get out of your head and get into someone else's head. And but again, that is and this isn't my area of expertise, so I won't even pretend that I'm in that space. But there is a certain degree of self-awareness that we have to have, and I think honesty that we have to have with ourselves. And so, there may be things that, you know, we know how to do, but does it make sense for me to do that particular thing?
Mhm,
As I mentioned, as Robin said, like she knew her strengths and she knew when it was time to bring in somebody for support. And so that
mhm,
support can be, the work that you do with one-on-one coaching of people. It could be getting yourself in some sort of, mastermind or professional development course that supports you. It could be listening to podcasts where you can get these sort of tips and information that you need.
Savvy the
But
Business podcast.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, yeah, like tune into this kind of conversation. We have shared some things that if you just grabbed one nugget, it could go a long way in moving you forward. But leverage the expertise of people who have been where you're trying to go, or they stumbled there and they didn't quite get there, but they have something to share that you can use in ensuring your success.
Okay, let's and that's true because with sharing those things, it goes into understanding who your true audience is instead of
Right.
who I want my audience to be.
Yes.
This is who your audience is going to be. This is where you need to be going.
Yeah.
So this is kind of be maybe a two far right here. Is one when you're trying to find your target audience and we have in our head, oh, this is who I want to go after, this is what we want to do,
Right.
but that's not really your audience. And
Right.
then for those that's in that place, um they may call it like a love-hate relationship or something, but how can they move forward by letting that go and say, okay, this isn't my audience? Because yeah, they may be liking, I may have 6,000 followers, But out of those 6,000 followers, how many of them are really engaging with what you're doing?
Right, are really leads. So I think this goes back to that strategic planning process that you and I talked about. So you got to think like, what is the need that is out there?
Mm-hmm.
And have I created a product or service that I like, or have I created something that meets the need? And
Mm-hmm.
when you sort of articulate who your ideal customer is, and so that's writing down, is it a black woman, is it a white woman, what age is she, does she have children, where does she live, where does she grocery shop? When you go through an exercise like that, you'll be able to figure out who your ideal customer is. And then, to your point, if you have these 6,000 followers on your Facebook profile or your Instagram profile, are they ideal customers or are they casual customers? And so that means they would buy from you on the regular if they're ideal, but if they're casual, they might just buy from you on special occasion, or you throw something up and they might buy something because they want to support you one time, but they aren't really your customer. And so
Right.
when you figure that out, you figure out, where do they buy things at? And so am I sitting at home at night online and I'm buying candles? Or do I prefer to go into the store, go into the mall and walk around and touch the candle and smell the candle? When you think about those things, then you figure out, oh, I need to be in this place. To think about your show. If I'm an entrepreneur, do I sit up at night worrying after I've had my full day and I'm looking for a passive, sort of casual way to learn? And so I'm going to turn to a podcast. I'm going to turn to the Savvy Business podcast. Think about those right. Think about those kinds of things. And so then, if I'm going to do Facebook or Instagram ads, can I direct my stuff to post at night so that people will see it and they'll
Mhm.
click and tune in? So, really you have to spend the time to sort of breathe life into who you think your customer is. And then again, when we talked about that operations plan, you get to test it. So let's say you ran midnight Facebook ads, and that's not possible, but let's say it is. And then you would see how many people clicked on that. And if only 5 people clicked on it and you spent $1,000, was that worth your investment? And the way that you determine your investment is, you spent $1,000, but you made $5,000. So it was worth it that those 5
Right.
people clicked on it. Or if you didn't get one click, or you only sold $20 of product, was that worth it for you? But you have to, again, have those metrics in place so that you can look at that and say, this is what I did, this is what I got, and refocus.
I like that. I love the way that you put that. That is so true. That you spend the money on these ads, and how many people did you click? And out of those 5 people that clicked, if you only made $50, then not so good.
That wasn't
But
right.
if you had 2 people to click and you made $5,000, okay, I only had 2 clicks on it, but
Yeah,
it was well worth it.
but it was well
And
worth
that's where people have to understand those numbers and, like you said, those metrics,
it. Yes,
because it's not always about the number of clicks that you get.
it's the quality of the click.
Hmm.
Like you
Hmm.
said, you can have 6,000 Instagram friends. If not one of those 6,000 people buy something from you, then, they're just your buddies. They aren't
Yeah,
your business prospects.
yeah, yeah. And I think people also have to be open and aware that family and friends can be very
Yes,
biased.
yes,
Because they don't want to support, they don't want to do all these things, but it's only so much family and friends can do too. They can't support the full function of your business. It's only so much support that they can put out.
right.
So when you're going, you're getting that pat on the back. Oh yeah, you're doing good, this is good, you keep going, move forward. That's great that you got that boost and push behind you. But if an outside person like me come in and be like, what you selling again?
Yeah,
Why are you doing this? And as we start digging and chopping away at it, like, nah, you might need to refocus that or redo. don't get upset. Don't get in your feelings. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say don't get upset. I can understand, people may get upset because maybe they put some blood, sweat, and tears in there, and it's like I did all of this, invested this money, and this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Again, family and friends are biased. And I'm not saying that that's a wrong thing, but anytime you need advice and moving forward in your business, you need to go outside of your circle.
Yes.
Somebody that don't know you, or if it is somebody that know you, somebody that you know, they're going to be honest. And
Yeah.
sometimes that honesty is brutal,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So our friends and family, they bring two things to it. To your point, they bring a cheerleading spirit. And so,
yeah,
if we got out of the bed and drank a glass of water, they'd be like, "Oh my God, Dana, that was amazing." Or sometimes they bring their own fear to it, right? And you especially see that in entrepreneurship and in starting new ventures. People will want you to be stable, right? Or they want to feel stable. And their mindset is around stability, and they see entrepreneurship as being volatile. And so they
mhm,
may not affirm what you're trying to do. And it's really just out of their own personal fear or their own personal values. And so, again, sometimes you have to look outside of yourself to get that affirmation, to get that support, to get that encouragement, to get that unbiased feedback, so that you can move forward and thrive. And then they catch up sometimes. Family and friends will catch up.
yeah, yeah. Um, what else can you offer or suggestions with, you know, uh, starting out for someone that's a starter? Because
Mhm.
so many businesses have, flourished in 2020 simply because of everything that's going on. So many people was able to start a business now, and I would consider to still call them starters. What advice would you have for those of, okay, you started, doing the whole COVID year, and you really want to grow this, and people are starting to get back out and do things, and they starting to pivot with the way that they're living, just adjusting with life. What solutions would you have for someone that's a starter post COVID on how they could continue building their businesses and not get discouraged because now people are finding other solutions?
Yeah. So I think the first step, is, or the first thing I say is like, how amazing that you start, right? Because I think most of us want to start in some sort of perfect way. Like I know I do that. I want to have all the information I can, and I want to process it and talk about it. And, I get
Yeah.
an analysis paralysis. But the fact that you started is amazing. And so I do think that if you have not spent time sort of doing a very lean, a very quick strategic plan process where you are clear about your purpose, you're clear about your messaging, you're clear
Mhm.
about your product and how it meets a need for someone else. You know your audience, you know where to go for your audience. Looking at the pricing maybe, and you're looking at your expenses and you're figuring out that your price is in a good place, or maybe you need to look at it and add a couple of more dollars because you're doing more now that people are moving around. Spend some time in doing that. And then spend some time in that sort of that operations planning process where you are, figuring out, okay, now that people are moving outside of their homes, maybe they aren't at their computer as much. Am I still pursuing the best ways to connect with them, to get information in front of them, and just kind of figure that out. If you spend the time looking at your ideal customer or client, and how they are moving through the world, then I think just a quick sort of look back or scan at that and making sure that what you do going forward aligns with that will be really supportive. But yeah, amazing that you started. Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So let everyone know how they can connect with you, get in touch with you, and all of that good stuff.
Yes. So I think the best way to get in touch with me would be through Instagram. I'm launching a podcast called Dana What Happened Was. And it is Dana, I found myself in this particular situation, and this is how I navigated it. That speaks to what you and I talked about, how you can learn from other
Mhm.
folks. And some of these quick tips that we are sharing will be a part of that. And so it's Dana What Happened Was on Instagram, Twitter. And if people want to email me, they can do that at danawhathappenedwas@gmail.com.
Wow, congratulations on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
When are you launching?
I will be launching in 2 weeks. I have my trailer up. I have some interviews that I'm doing. And then I recorded some. So the things that we talked about today, I recorded some quick tips that people can listen to if they want to figure out like how to develop an operations plan and how to prioritize things in their strategic plan, like we discussed today on your podcast.
Oh, wow. That's going to be great. That's going to be a great podcast. We talked about, finding those podcasts to, find those tips, solutions, and just get some business information. Well, not only is Savvy the Business podcast, but now you have Dana What Happened Was. I love that title. What had happened was.
Right.
Put hand in there. What had happened was.
Right. I wasn't making any money. And I had to rethink this thing.
Wow, I love that. I love it. So thank you again for coming on the podcast and having this little chat with me. It was great. And I can't wait to, listen to your podcast and share it with my audience as well.
Thank you. This was beautiful. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.